Welcome back to Cityscape. In this episode of Secret People, we will cover Aleister Crowley, a British writer and occultist known for practicing mystical rituals and sex magic. I have briefly mentioned the occult world in my episode on William Walker Atkinson. To reiterate, we live in a universe of laws, not just physical laws, but also spiritual ones. In fact, every law of physics has a spiritual counterpart. These laws cannot be violated, but when studied and well understood, one can put these laws to use in their interests, similar to how we can use electricity once we understand the law of electromagnetism. A person can also bend the rules by using higher laws against lower ones, hence accomplishing what others call miracles. This body of knowledge is what we call the occult. Again, the word occult means hidden. Those who have been following my channel for a while also know that I'm a software engineer. In computer science, we have what's called black hat and white hat programmers. A white hat programmer is someone who exploits computer systems or networks to identify security flaws and make improvement recommendations. There are friendlies that help make the system more safe for everyone. A black hat coder, on the other hand, is someone who violates computer security for malicious reasons or for personal gain. These black hat programmers are what typically comes to mind when you hear the word hacker. They are not your friend and will most likely ransom your computer for money or identity theft. There is a similar parallel in the occult world. There are white hat occultists, gifted individuals who study the law to guide others and prevent the collective from making ruinous decisions. And there are also black hat occultists, people who use the law to achieve selfish aims at the expense of others. William Walker Atkinson represents the former, Aleister Crowley, the latter. As always, let's start with a brief background. Edward Alexander Crowley was born in Warwickshire, England on October 12, 1875. He was born into a wealthy family. His father was trained as an engineer, but he worked as a preacher and also owned a significant share in a lucrative family brewing business. Aleister Crowley's family was deeply religious. Both his mother and father were Plymouth Brethren, a Christian fundamentalist group that is essentially anti-pleasure. Crowley greatly admired his father and wanted to follow his footsteps and become a preacher. When Crowley was 11, his father died of tongue cancer. This death, combined with the extremely restrictive childhood the Christian fundamentalist lifestyle gave him, would set Crowley on a path of perpetual rebellion against the church. The death also allowed Crowley to inherit a third of his father's great wealth. At the age of 20, Crowley entered Cambridge to study English literature. He spent much of his pastime playing chess, mountaineering, and having sex with prostitutes, from whom he eventually contracted gonorrhea and then syphilis. He also took part in same-sex activities, despite their illegality at the time. While at Cambridge, Crowley developed an interest in the occult and was initiated 3 years later into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Crowley quickly progressed through the lower grades of the order, but was refused initiation into the second order due to his bisexuality and promiscuous lifestyle. Since this is a Secret People episode, we will not so much focus on the life story of Crowley, but on his work. I also want to clarify a myth. It is a pervasive belief that Aleister Crowley was a Satanist. He was not. He did not even believe in the existence of a devil. He saw the devil as a fictional creation of Christianity, a religion he pretty much despised. Here is a direct quote from Aleister Crowley's book, Magic in Theory and Practice.
The devil is, historically, the god of any people that one personally dislikes. This has led to so much confusion of thought that the beast 666 has preferred to let names stand as they are, and to proclaim simply that Awaz, the solar phallic hermetic Lucifer, is his own holy guardian angel.
So where did this idea of Aleister Crowley being a Satanist came from? Well, it came from the press, as well as public opinion. The activities Crowley engaged in were viewed as extremely perverted, so many people accused him of being a Satanist. He was also called the Great Beast 666 and the wickedest man on earth. Aleister Crowley went with these labels for the notoriety it gave his name. And to be clear, although Aleister Crowley did not believe in the devil per se, he did in fact perform rituals to summon demons and spirits. He even did a ritual in the desert where he had sex with a man while trying to open the gates to a low demonic spirit realm. Anyway, let's move on to the major works that propelled Aleister Crowley as a culturally important person. These works are twofold. The first is the Book of the Law, written in 1904, and the second is the religion Aleister Crowley founded, Thelema. Let's take a look at both. The Book of the Law came when Aleister Crowley heard a disembodied voice telling him to write down everything he would hear in the next 3 days. After 3 days of channeling the spirit of Aiwaz, the great work was complete. Here is its message. The book proclaimed that humanity is entering the Aeon of Horus, a new era in which humans will take increasingly control of their destiny. This Aeon was preceded by the Aeon of Osiris, in which paternalistic religions like Christianity and Islam dominated the world. This in turn was preceded by the Aeon of Isis, which had been maternalistic and dominated by goddess worship.
Magic is real, and reality is magical.
Magic is, according to the book, the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with cosmic will. The book also states that magic is getting into communication with individuals who exist on higher planes. An individual can use magic to achieve whatever their purpose is in life, especially if it's aligned with cosmic will. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Which is another way of saying people should learn to live in tune with their will. Religion serves as a tool that uses ritual and the energy of other followers to reinforce and expedite the manifestation of desires and will. This brings us to the second major work of Crowley, his religion, Thelema, which both Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard were part of. On a side note, Crowley never trusted Hubbard and warned Parsons of his shady character. He would go on to say,
Suspect Ron is playing confidence trick. Jack evidently weak fool. Obvious victim prowling swindlers.
I guess Parsons should have listened. Anyway, Aleister Crowley believed that Thelema was a proper religion of the Aeon of Horus and also deemed himself to be a prophet. Thelema revolves around followers pursuing their true will and uses techniques such as channeling, astral projection, and sex magic to accelerate the time dreams take to become reality. I do also want to point out that Crowley founded Thelema shortly after his inheritance money ran out and was facing severe financial difficulties. He founded the religion as a way to monetize his mystical studies and adventures. Crowley's religion would not be as successful as L. Ron Hubbard's, however, and in February 1935, he was declared completely bankrupt. During the court hearing, it was revealed that Crowley had been spending 3 times his income for several years. He lived the rest of his life in poverty, but also had a third child, a son in his very late years. This peaceful settling down with his son made Crowley question if all this mystical journey were worth it. He died on December 1st, 1947, but his work would live on.
It is necessary that we stop, once for all, this ignorant meddling with other people's business. Each individual must be left free to follow his own path.
Aleister Crowley would become a counterculture hero. His life and writings became a big influence on the free love era embraced by hippies during the 60s. This era of nonconformity through drugs and sex is but a miniature repeat of Crowley's life. The message of Crowley would reach the public via musicians like Ozzy Osbourne, Marilyn Manson, and the Beatles. Crowley was even included as one of the figures on the cover art of the Beatles album Sgt. Pepper's. Most people would not recognize him on that album, however, hence why he's a secret person. Since this is a channel about secret spots, one location you can visit is the Abbey of Thelema in Italy. This was a house Aleister Crowley purchased to live in a commune with his girlfriend and religious followers. The group did lots of things in this small house. They performed magic rituals, animal sacrifice, experimented with drugs, had orgies, and even bestiality. Crowley also created a nightmare room for his followers to spend time in while under psychedelics. One of the followers even fell sick and died after drinking the blood of a cat that was sacrificed during a ritual. Reports were made by the Italian locals, and Mussolini then ordered Aleister Crowley and his followers to leave Italy. The house remains unoccupied and can be explored by some brave scouts. Those of you who want to visit the Abbey of Thelema should save this location on a Cityscape app. Aleister Crowley was called the Great Beast 666, but he was not a Satanist. He was also called the wickedest man in the world, but that's also a lie. I guarantee you there are far more wicked people right now in government running the world. Aleister Crowley may have been a sexual deviant, a drug addict, and an egomaniac, but he certainly did not try to impose his will upon others. He was very much a product of his time, a man who vigorously rejected the religious mindset that dominated the Victorian era he was born in. 40 years later, the crowd would follow his footsteps. At the end of the day, Aleister Crowley reads like a hedonist misfit who struggled to find his place in the world. His extreme tendencies have likely prevented this man from achieving his greater potential. Instead, he died a sick, broke, and lonely drug addict. I guess the lesson to learn here is that rejecting religion should not mean rejecting the moral codes it instructs. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. Lastly, avoid extremes. Aleister Crowley and his fanatical Christian father have more in common than meets the eyes. See you next time.